The Babylon Project was our last best hope for Scott. A self-contained podcast, 1 hour long, located on the internet. A place of fun and discussion for Babylon 5 fans everywhere. A shining beacon in cyberspace, all alone in the night. It was the dawn of the 20th anniversary of Babylon 5, the year the Great War to free Bab 5 came upon us all. This is the story of the last of the Babylon podcasts. The year is 2014. The name of the place is the Babylon Project Podcast.
This is Maggie Egan, your ISN news anchor, and you're listening to the Babylon Project podcast. Thanks for listening.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Hey, Lo.
What, did you take up yodeling or something? What's the deal here?
Hi there, Babylon 5 fans. If you're wondering why I'm laughing, it's because I've got bad sinuses. My voice just did a total squeak on the first take of saying hello. I am here tonight with my good friend, Jim Arrowood. How are you tonight, my friend?
Doing very well.
Got your Earl Grey with you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm on the Coke Zero tonight. That squeak is the reason why. It's just stuffy nose leading to a stuffy throat, so I need something a little stronger than tea to cut through.
Oh, well, I need the tea because it is like 12 degrees here.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Welcome to winter.
Yeah, it came awful early. But,
oh, wow.
See, we have a saying here in Nebraska, though.
Uh-huh.
If you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes. It'll change.
That's the St. Louis saying as well. I'm real familiar with that.
We had on Sunday, 70-degree weather.
We did yesterday.
On Monday...
No, Monday we did.
On Monday, we were down to 17 degrees.
Yep, and I think we're supposed to hit 20 this evening.
And there's another saying about Nebraska, too. We only have 2 seasons here, winter and road repair.
No, that one we don't have. Though it is said that we only have 2 months out of the year that are usable. And that tends to be May and October. Otherwise, it's too cold or too hot. Now, how's the humidity out there?
It's really dry.
Okay. Here in St. Louis, I mean, there's been, yeah, I spent a lot of time out in high desert, walking around in 110, 115 degree weather.
Uh-huh.
I've been out here in St. Louis on a hot summer day where the temperature's 90 and the humidity is slightly higher than the temperature.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take the desert heat over that any day.
I'll take the air conditioning over all of it any day. No, it's dry here. It's very dry here because all the girls at school today were complaining about the static in their hair.
Oh, my.
So,
actually, I don't know if we're here to talk about the weather, but Babylon 5.
Yes.
Tonight's episode is Eyes.
Yes, Eyes. Short for Internal Investigations.
Yep. I, plural. Eyes.
Yes.
With this episode, well, I guess the best way to put it is how Koch would put it. And so it begins.
I would think he would just say yes.
In this case, I'm going with that cautiism because this starts the roller coaster to the end of the season.
Yes. And it's quite a ride.
Oh, yeah. So, do you want to give us a summary?
Yes, here it is.
Archive. Access. Initiated.
Babylon 5 has 2 strangers on board who are asking questions about Commander Sinclair and other members of the command staff. Garibaldi learns about this and begins an investigation of his own. He learns that the 2 have identified themselves as Aaron Franks and a Mr. Gray. When Garibaldi attempts to question them about their activities, he learns that Franks is actually Ben Zane from Earth Force Internal Security, also known by the acronym EYES. Zane explains that Gray is a telepath, and the 2 of them are on the station to conduct an investigation of the command staff. Zane and Gray meet with Sinclair, Ivanova, and Garibaldi and tell them that they have been sent to look into the activities on board the station by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Zane tells them that they are compelled to cooperate fully with the investigation and further tells Garibaldi that he will be aiding Zane and Gray with the inquiry. After being questioned about several decisions that Sinclair has made, Garibaldi informs Sinclair that Zane is coming after him. Sinclair tells Garibaldi that the record is clear and that he is not worried about the investigation, but Garibaldi reminds him that the Psi Corps appears to be gaining power in the government and that the rules are changing. When Zane calls Sinclair in for an interview, Sinclair insists that Gray leave the room because the regulations state that since there have been no formal charges filed, he is not required to submit to a telepathic scan. Zane reluctantly sends Gray out of the room and begins to interview Sinclair with Garibaldi as a witness. Later, Zane arrives in the command center to inform the staff that he has taken over command of Babylon 5 pending the outcome of his investigation. Garibaldi decides to perform an investigation of his own and looks into Zane's files. Sinclair contacts the Earth Force and talks to a general in an attempt to end the investigation, but to no avail. Soon after, Garibaldi informs Sinclair that Ben Zane was passed over for command of Babylon 5 and is also friends with Alfred Bester. Sinclair remembers that Bester promised to even the score the last time he was on the station. Zane resumes his investigation of Sinclair with Garibaldi, Ivanova, and Gray present. Armed with the knowledge of what Garibaldi has learned about Zane, Sinclair accuses Zane of executing a personal vendetta against him for being passed over for command of Babylon 5. Zane becomes enraged and draws his PPG. Gray uses telepathy to stun Zane long enough to be subdued by Sinclair. In one of the 2 subplots, Ivanova vehemently protests coming under the scrutiny of a telepath. When she learns that she may be compelled to comply, she offers her resignation to Sinclair, who refuses it out of hand. She also states that she will be willing to face a court-martial and be dishonorably discharged from the service to avoid being scanned. As she sleeps, she dreams about how her mother had been treated by Psi Corps, only strengthening her resolve. Despite being assured by Gray, who admires her for her service in Earth Force, that he would not perform deep scans and cause her harm, she remains steadfast in her resolve not to be violated by any representative of Psi Corps. The second subplot centers on Garibaldi, Lanier, and a Kawasaki Ninja motorcycle. Garibaldi is attempting to restore the bike. He has scrounged parts from whatever sources he could find and has even won a manual in a blackjack game. When Lanier approaches him to make security arrangements for another visit to the station by Shal Mayan, Lanier offers to translate the manual, which is in Japanese, for Garibaldi. Garibaldi not only accepts the offer, but also agrees to let Lanier help with the restoration. During the course of the activities involving Ben Zane, Lanier learns about the history of the motorcycle, its significance in society, and completes all of the restoration work, much to the brief disappointment of Mr. Garibaldi. But Garibaldi does appreciate the excellent job that Lanier has done on the Ninja, as well as the Minbari power source that allows Garibaldi to actually take the machine for a spin. As Garibaldi and Lanier, riding the Ninja through the main causeway of the station, pass Sinclair and Ivanova, she observes that everything has returned to normal on Babylon 5.
Initiating plot analysis.
Thank you again, Jim. Interesting. We bring back the character Charles Mayan coming back to the station.
Yeah, but she never arrives.
Or at least we never see her.
No, we just get Garibaldi with a request from Lanier to make some security arrangements, which is understandable after what happened during her last visit.
Time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think more than anything else, it just gives the connection to start this little Lanier Garibaldi story throughout this episode.
Yes.
And, oh, gosh, that was hilarious.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the way Lanier was learning here.
Yeah.
About lots of things.
My. About lots of things.
Yes.
Well, from there we get a quick cut into something being planned that involves Ivanova being a problem.
Well,
now, could you ever imagine Ivanova being a problem, though?
Well, yeah, it just depends, really. The way I saw it is that Ivanova wasn't a problem, and that made it a problem. She has a spotless military record, and Ben Zane
has a problem with that.
Yeah, he has a problem that she has no problem. His partner wanted her left out of the whole thing. He must have a little crush on her or something, but of course, Ben Zane wasn't going to allow that to happen. Going back for just a second, did you find it rather hilarious, as I did, that Garibaldi was working on his Ninja in his quarters?
Yeah. That was funny. Where does he put it when he's not working on it?
I don't know. He must have some very large quarters, or he doesn't spend a great deal of time there.
I mean, I've known people to keep car parts, or an engine broke down, the parts in their bathroom, your headers in the tub. I mean, so bachelor pad.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad I'm not a mechanic.
But yeah, that was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
And we also get a third piece of, not so much of a story, but a third piece of background for the story, and that's the situation on Mars.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's not just the anti-alien sentiments of Home Guard, but seems to be there's a lot of unrest on Mars Colony as well. Free Mars being a main group.
Yeah, it's a push for Martian independence, it apparently seems.
Yeah, and apparently there's some weapons dealing and some smuggling of weapons into Mars. And where it's legal, they can't do much about it, but they can try and clamp down, and track and pass the information back along.
Right.
At least at BAP5.
And they can also stop the exchange of the weapons on the station. Which, yeah.
And Lou Welch is back.
Yeah, he's back on screen with a huge lunch. Could you imagine?
That is one big burger.
Could you imagine eating something like that for lunch?
For lunch?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I saw that burger. Yeah, that burger reminded me of some of the burgers you can get at Cracker Barrel.
Oh wow. I'll tell you what.
They make a huge monster burger, and then their onion rings are to die for.
The biggest burger I have ever had was at Ruby Tuesday. It was 3 burgers, 3 full-size burgers stacked one on top of the other. And then all this gravy on it and everything. And I ordered it, and the waitress set it in front of me, and I looked up at her and I said, "Do you have a manual on how to eat this thing?"
Knife and forker.
Yeah, you couldn't pick it up and bite it. But anyway, if I ate a lunch the size that Lou Welch was eating,
I'd be down for the day.
and then the first graders come in, I would just have to put on a video and sit at my desk and take a nap. That'd be all there would be.
Yep. Yeah, it wasn't just the burger; it was everything around it.
Yeah, it was a big lunch.
Of course, he didn't seem to get much chance to eat his lunch.
Well, yeah.
Mr. Franks talking to him every time he was about to take a bite.
Yeah.
That was just amusing.
Yep, pumping him for information, and of course Lou wasn't going to give him any. Tell him nothing. So,
but he did give Garibaldi the heads up.
Yes, thank goodness.
And you noticed who he was talking to in the background.
Now, I
after he left.
I didn't recognize the character. Who is it?
That was Mr. Garibaldi's second. You know, the one we don't have a name for yet.
Oh,
at least
I thought
the name that people are supposed to be looking for. It was an uncredited role. It was more of just because there was no line spoken. He was more or less just an extra there, but that was him.
Okay, now I always thought Lou was his second.
No. That's not his second in command.
Okay.
We'll be seeing some more of this guy.
Okay.
And like I said, we're still looking. We're still looking for someone who knows his name.
Okay.
And this episode starts out hopping around all over the place, and then it kind of settles down.
Yeah.
And our next big hop, I guess, is back to Lanier.
Yeah, Lanier is a student of history, and of course he seems to be trying to learn everything he possibly can about humans, and this bike that Garibaldi has been working on gives him an in for that, and so he looks up the history of the motorcycle.
Sexual prowess and rebellion.
Yes, that's what the motorcycle symbolizes, according to what Lanier is watching.
Uh-huh. I think that poor guy must have grown up in a cloister. Well, actually, he did, I guess.
Oh yeah, he's naive as
Priest
heck.
class.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's his appeal, though.
Yep. Back to these visitors that are worried about Ivanovich being a problem.
Yeah.
Got to tell you, turns out that, Mr. Gray pulls on the glove, so obviously he's a teep.
Yes.
But for some reason, it just kind of stuck out that pop as the glove snapped on.
Yeah, he did do that. You notice, though, he keeps his hands behind his back at first.
Uh-huh.
Because I guess he's supposed to be undercover. Him and
right.
Ben Zane are both undercover.
And gloves would be a dead giveaway.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if that glove pop was actually from the gloves themselves, or if that was Foley.
I don't know.
So it was just one of those weird things that popped into my head. Yeah, Garibaldi shows up, and Franks seems to know an awful lot about him.
Well, obviously he would, because if he's looked at everybody's files, he would know, of course, who everybody is. Except what I wonder about is he seems to know about, I should say, Garibaldi's alcohol problem.
Uh-huh.
Which, would that be in his military record? Or is Garibaldi... Here's a question I have for you. Maybe you can answer.
Well, remember, Garibaldi at first doesn't even know who this guy is.
Right.
In fact, that's part of the issue. As he put it, that being annoyed like that gives him gas. Well, here's the quote, guys.
You're starting to irritate me, Mr. Franks, and I don't like being irritated. It gives me gas.
The name isn't Franks. It's Colonel Ari Benzane, Earth Force Internal Affairs.
Your eyes?
I'm an internal investigator. Mr. Gray is a military specialist from Psycho. We're here to make a special investigation of Babylon 5.
So basically, yeah, this is where we find out who Franks really is. Ari Benzane.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, internal investigator. Eyes.
Yes. He would probably be on NYPD Blue. They called him the Rat Squad.
Ha! I have never seen NYPD Blue.
You
believe it or not,
do not know what you are missing. What an
I've never
awesome cop
been
show.
a police. I have never been a big cop show fan.
Oh, geez. No, I dearly love anything Stephen Bochco does. It's got to be seen. That's all there is to it. But anyway, before we get off too far off track.
Well, we find out the reason why he's here. Apparently, the Mars unrest has crept up in the ranks.
Now before we go on, I had a question.
Okay.
For you. Is Garibaldi military?
Yes.
He wears no badge of rank. He wears a uniform that is military. He has no badge of rank, and I've never heard of him referred to other than chief. Is he enlisted?
Meaning as in a CPO?
Yeah.
Would he be the equivalent like a CPO?
Well, I suppose he could be, but I don't see a badge of rank, at least not on his epaulets.
And I know what you're saying, and I know, yeah, you are actually correct. Let me see something here. Setting, introduction, main cast. Security Chief Michael Garibaldi. And no, there's no rank listed.
Yeah. So what is it? Is it something like a Halliburton kind of situation?
Aha. Okay, I have your answer for you here. Going to Wikipedia, military rank chief warrant officer.
Oh, okay. All right. So he was an enlisted man who was made an officer.
Mm-hmm.
That's how. That's what a warrant is. So okay.
Yep. Anyway.
Yeah, you were talking about Mars unrest is the reason for the investigation.
Correct. They're trying to. Apparently, it's been causing some trouble in the ranks, and they need to make sure there's no issues floating around as far as loyalty. Yeah. Okay. This is now turned into something different. My impression is with senators and things that we were being governed by a republic, if not a democracy, and now we've got this loyalty thing coming up. Yep.
It does not.
Seeds are being laid.
It does not bode well for the future.
No. And here's a better question. Who is he testing for loyalty towards?
Exactly. We'll find out in a little bit, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. But for some reason, Benzane seems to like Garibaldi, so he gets kind of yanked in as his assistant.
Well, he knows that Garibaldi has a lot of the answers he wants. And Garibaldi is not at all happy about this.
No. I don't think I've seen him that disgusted. Well, short of being around Bester.
Yeah. Now, Garibaldi is 110% loyal to Commander Sinclair all the way.
But he's got the same degree of loyalty toward, if not Earth, if not the Senate, certainly towards Earth Force.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had his problems, but he's apparently a solid officer, which is he'll do what he has to do no matter how much he doesn't like it.
Right.
So, hey, I've got a question, by the way.
Okay.
In this scene. All right. Benzane dismisses Sinclair.
Right.
I comparative ranks. I don't know. So a colonel outranks a commander.
In military rank and courtesy, and I had to look this up because it's been a very long time since I've had anything to do with it. But a commander, which is a naval rank, is the same comparatively in the Army or Marines as a lieutenant colonel.
Okay.
And Ben Zane is wearing birds on his collar, which makes him a colonel.
Right.
And so he is one step above Sinclair in rank.
Okay, so the outrank you is dead on accurate.
Yes.
Okay, that was one of the things that... So then a naval captain would be an equivalent rank of a Marine or Army colonel.
Yes. However, keep in mind now that the captain in the Navy, a person who is in charge of a ship, no matter what their rank is also a captain if he's in charge of a ship. That doesn't mean his rank is captain. That's his title while he is in command of a ship. For instance, I believe, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe that John F. Kennedy, when he was in charge of the 109, he was the captain or the skipper of the ship, but his actual rank was lieutenant junior grade.
Okay. Were you Navy?
No, I was in the Army.
Okay. Which has their own rank of captain, which is way down the totem pole, comparatively.
Well, you have, as far as the officer...
Compared to the Navy.
Yeah, oh yeah. The officer ranks in the Army, you have a second lieutenant, first lieutenant, and then a captain. Then a captain becomes a major becomes a lieutenant colonel, becomes a colonel.
Right.
So.
All right. The one other thing, and I don't know, I didn't serve, but not the military rank captain, but ship's captain.
Yeah.
Doesn't that by either custom or courtesy outrank anyone who is on that ship?
If I understand the question, I believe the answer is yes.
Unless someone like an admiral. But even then, the admiral can command the captain as one of his men under the fleet, but not with respect to the running of the ship itself.
Well, and when you start getting up into generals and admirals, you get a weird thing going on there. For instance,
that's why I bring up the idea of custom and tradition has a whole lot.
Right.
To play.
George Patton's actual rank was a lieutenant colonel.
Uh-huh.
Supposedly, when the war is over, the generals go back to their original rank. It doesn't happen, but it's usually a promotion, a battlefield promotion or something like that.
Right.
We should probably talk to J.P. Harvey about some of this. I'll bet you he has a good understanding of that.
Oh, yeah, that would be a great one. We need to kick an email.
Okay.
Kick an email to him. And we probably ought to get him on the show some point. Especially once we get into like next season where we really start having some of the ranks interacting, and season 3.
Yeah.
Where chains of command start to come into play.
Be warned, JP, you are going to be our official military consultant on the show.
Yeah.
We better get back onto this.
We definitely have to get back onto this. Yeah. In the same session, though, we find out that apparently, we knew Susan didn't like telepaths.
Right.
But it is a really big issue with her. She flat out refuses to be scanned as part of the course of this investigation.
Yeah.
Even if it's a surface scan, just to see if just to tell if she's lying or not.
She does not want to be bothered with telepaths at all, ever, for any reason.
Yeah. No one is to be in her mind.
And then Ben Zane says there are new regulations that will allow this. And so the new regulation, now, a few episodes back, we saw Garibaldi reading a newspaper that had a headline saying that Psychor is becoming more and more involved in government, and now we have new regulations. Yep. Another indication that the Psychor is gathering power.
Yeah, and that's going to be a running theme.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Just one other thing, and this is in my notes, and we see it here as they're walking around and moving around back and forth. It really stood out when Garibaldi was escorting Benzane and Gray to their new quarters.
Uh-huh.
That I love really well done Steadicam work like they did in this episode.
Yeah, it was.
It kind of foreshadows, like BSG, the BSG reboot that was half a decade later, used that same technique a lot.
Yeah, they did a great job.
It fit the mood. It fit the mood.
Yeah.
Garibaldi's ire and snark really it worked well with that kind of filming.
I loved it when Garibaldi said, or when he says, "Who is running Earth Force anyway, Abbott and Costello?"
Yeah. Even that seemed to even touch Ben Zane's sense of humor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Not Ben Zane's, but that got Mr. Gray laughing. And did you see the dirty look he got?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now,
yeah.
I'll tell you what, it just knocks me over how supposedly in the year that this takes place, they remember who Abbott and Costello is. Because I can go to school tomorrow and say Abbott and Costello, and there are teachers who say, "Who is that?"
Yeah, I know. Okay.
It's kind of sad.
It's kind of sad. On the other hand, I can absolutely understand that people in the 23rd century are going to still remember Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck.
Well, at least Garibaldi does. He seems to be a student of popular culture.
Yep. Oh, gosh. Speaking of students, so he goes back, he does the web search, his password.
Peekaboo.
Uh-huh. Would you have ever guessed that?
I wouldn't have guessed it, but it didn't surprise me.
Yeah. Now, you want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
My wife used that for a password once.
Oh.
It was a common use password for a certain secured resource when she worked at a particular music listening library.
Oh.
And she got in trouble for it. Apparently, it wasn't serious enough.
Oh, jeez. I'll tell you what.
This was someone, musician attitude, librarian attitude, academic attitude.
Oh. No
Take
sense
your
of
choice.
Humor. Well, it always cracks me up when I watch this episode and he says that. And then the other night I was watching it again and Diane was sitting behind me. Her computer is right behind my lazy boy. And he said peekaboo and she cracked up over that too. That's
oh, my. Continuing. All right. Now, this is my wife's opinion more than mine.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Gray seems to have a thing for Ivanova.
Yeah.
I mean, he really, really has a problem with her disgust.
Well, and he talks about that in his own background, his own character development, that he admires the military. He wanted to be a pilot before his abilities manifested themselves. I don't know if he has the hots for her or if he wants her acceptance and respect.
Well, That latter is absolutely a part of it.
Yeah. You know, I can relate to the guy because I love to read about airplanes. I love to look at aircraft and things like that. And I've always wanted to be a pilot, but I know I'll never, I'm not going to be one. So, you know, I learn everything I possibly can. And, you know, another thing too is he wanted to be military, but telepaths are not allowed to be in the military in the Babylon 5 universe.
Nope. Unless, of course, you're in the Omega Wing.
Well, and that's their own thing. But why would they not allow telepaths in the military?
Well, you know, on the one hand, you would think they would want the military advantage, but I'm going to guess on the other hand, they're just not going to trust the risk of the telepath being able to pick things out of their superior's head.
Well, yeah, okay, I can see that.
He does have a knack for saying the wrong thing to Ivanova, though.
Well, when it comes to telepathy and the way Ivanova feels about it, it would be pretty easy to trip over your own tongue and say something wrong.
You know, why don't we let her say it? I don't think anyone could say it better than her.
No, you're right.
It's not easy to have your dreams snatched away just because you're different. I didn't take it very well. Then the Corps came. They said I could still serve in Earth Force as a Psi Corps liaison.
A boyhood dream come true. I'm in tears.
It saved my life. Gave me purpose again, and granted, it's not the same as your kind of soldiering, but part of a dream is better than none.
Is there a point to the story, Mr. Gray?
I just want you to know I love the Force and respect the people like you who serve in it.
A pretty speech. Did the Colonel write this for you?
No. But he's going to insist that everyone be scanned, and it's just easier if you accept that. Now, I give you my word. I'll respect your personal privacy. The only thoughts I'll be looking for are those concerned with your duties in Earth Force. And given your record, I'm certain you have nothing to fear.
Mr. Gray, I'm grateful the Psi Corps has given you a purpose in life. But when that purpose includes scanning my mind to prove my loyalty, it's not only invasion of my privacy, but my honor. As for fear, if you enter my mind for any reason, I will twist your head off and use it for a chamber pot. If you'll excuse me.
Like I said, Susan does not like telepaths.
No, not at all.
And we do a quick cut from there to Ben Zane reviewing some of the records, apparently going all the way back to the very beginning of Sinclair's command.
Yeah.
Of the station.
And how he handled certain situations, and the subject of Kosh comes up.
Yeah, right. So they let Kosh just walk away and destroy Deathwalker without a complaint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what's Benzane going to do? Threaten the Vorlons?
Well, what's anybody going to do as far as the Vorlons are concerned? You know, and if Benzane did decide to go after Kosh, I would love to have a ringside seat for that one.
It would be amusing, to say the least.
It certainly would.
I mean, there wouldn't be any question of the outcome, but it would still be amusing.
Yeah.
So what is up with Benzane? He really seems to be going after Sinclair in a big way.
Yeah. And it seems to be more than an authorized investigation. It seems to be...
The authorized investigations are there. I mean, you know, EarthGov apparently is having quite a few problems.
Right.
But as you say, it's more than that. There's something. There's a personal element.
Yeah,
in this.
There's a vendetta going on here of some kind. And Bester's been mentioned. So, you know, Bester's henchman.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
And when Garibaldi goes to talk to Sinclair about it, he lists episodes all over the place that we've seen in the past that were supposedly standalone episodes.
Yeah, so even the standalones have their role to play as far as grief that he's getting now.
Yeah.
We do get a little bit, one of my favorite pieces of the entire episode coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of lighthearted break between, wedge between two really intense pieces.
Mm-hmm.
The mysteries of the fuel injection system.
Yeah. And Lanier is trying to divine these mysteries by chanting Zaba Gabi, Zaba Gabi, Zaba Gabi, which I later learned is the title of one of his band's album. He had a band, and their album was Zaba Gabi. And you know what? I read somewhere he got in trouble for that.
Really?
That JMS told him not to do it again.
The album name or the chant, or sneaking the chant in?
Yeah, not to promote any more things outside of the show in those sneaky ways of doing it. So,
which wouldn't surprise me. Babylon 5 had very, very strict rules regarding any sort of ad-libbing.
Yeah.
Any sort of ad-libbing was a huge, huge no-no. Any sort of script rewrites by the directors or changes to script by the directors of the production cast if JMS wasn't there was an absolute do not do it. You had to do the script as written.
Right.
And that was because of the degree to which everything interdepended on each other.
Right.
So that was something that there were very strict rules about. So, yeah, I can imagine him getting in a little trouble for that on a couple of levels.
Yeah. So, anyway, I know I've got to, next time I fire up Spotify, I'm going to have to try to find this.
Okay, yeah. Well, we go from that kind of a laugh to, frankly, pure horror, just plain creepy.
Yeah, the very darkest time of the whole episode. That would be that was Ivanova's nightmare.
Yeah. That really just, I'm sorry, that just creeped me out.
Yeah. And that scream when she woke up was, yeah.
JMS just seems to take some sort of perverse joy in beating up on Susan.
Yeah, sometimes. Okay. Now, she's having bad dreams. She's avoiding being scanned at even the most superficial level. Does she know that she may be a telepath?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she does. In fact, remember in season 3 when Lita Alexander makes her return, her reason for refusing the scan finally comes out. She's a latent telepath.
So do you think she knows this at this point?
Oh, yeah. Because
Okay.
it was from her mother's instruction that she was told never to tell.
Okay.
Now, I've got a question for you regarding that dream.
Okay.
That corridor that she's running down in her nightmare, is that the same corridor we see Michael York in A Late Delivery from Avalon come season 3?
You know,
I'm honestly not sure.
I don't know either. But when we get to that point, I'll definitely be looking at it.
Yeah, keep an eye out, because I'm just curious.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do get our first hints though as to why she's afraid of being scanned when she finds herself being replaced with her mom.
Yeah.
And you were talking about personal agendas and Bester's henchmen.
Yes.
When we switch from the dream back to Benzane, and he lets Mr. Gray know that Mr. Gray, like I said, I feel sorry for Gray. He's a good guy. He's just stuck in a really lousy spot. He's warning Benzane what he's not necessarily allowed to do and what's not appropriate.
Right.
And it's interesting the way Benzane lets Gray know that Bester would appreciate anything he could dig up.
Right. And so now we see that something is going on below the surface that is not actually what Benzane says is supposed to be happening.
Or at least a lot more, yeah.
Now think back when Bester departed the station last time. He told Sinclair,
I'll be seeing you.
I'll be seeing you. This is going to come back on you. And frankly, Sinclair has made a ton of enemies already.
Yeah, this actually comes up when Sinclair finally goes to the military chain of command to ask some questions about it.
Right. And then in another scene, we see Benzane specifically mentioning how Sinclair settled the strike.
Yeah. In fact, that's, in a way, that's, well, not just next, but because before that happens, we get another little bit of, shall we say, comedy.
Yeah.
Where the moth is being pulled to the flame with Mr. Gray and Susan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that poor guy, he just can't help digging himself a hole.
Yeah. Did it seem to you like for just a few seconds there that she was warming up to him a little bit?
Yes.
And then
yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Then he said stuff and just kind of blew himself.
Stuck his foot in his mouth up to the hip.
Yeah, right. Blew himself right out of the water.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I like the way it goes from, he's really making some huge changes from light moments to intense.
Mm-hmm.
And we go from that right back to your vendetta.
Yes.
Where, as you said, Sinclair is replaced. It's definitely a witch hunt.
The next scene is very, very telling here. Because, okay, Benzane is a tool. Not only a tool in the new sense, but he's a tool. he's a tool for those that are out to get him.
Yeah.
And I think that Bester, the senators, and all the people that Sinclair has angered went looking for Benzane to do this job because of what happens next.
Yeah, he doesn't waste any time taking over, does he?
No, he takes over the station and he tells Sinclair, I have dealt with hotshots like you before.
Uh-huh.
And he reveals that this station should have been mine.
Yep.
And so we have not only a personal vendetta, but we have a vendetta that's pushing him into this. A bunch of people, they're ganging up on him as well. They're ganging up on Sinclair. That is what's happening.
They see their chance. I mean, there's a legitimate investigation, what should be just a routine event that is being used for political payback.
Yeah, they don't need to investigate, though. Everything's in the record. There's no need to...
It shouldn't be much more than a formality for BAB 5.
Okay, I would go along with that. A routine audit.
It's basically an audit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ivanova doesn't take this very well. She's rather expecting a Russian ending, as she puts it.
Yes.
So leaves her post, and Michael catches up with her, and he's going to meet her for a drink in a few minutes.
Yes.
Meanwhile, like you were saying, Sinclair is being hung out for political advantage. In all this is where he actually calls back to headquarters. And all I can say is thank God he's actually talking to someone military instead of senator or politician.
Hidoshi. But even then, his commanding officer leaves him out in the cold.
Yep.
There's no help there. Whoever is going after Sinclair must have a long, long reach.
Yeah, and it's got to be more than, well, obviously we know it's more than Bastard, because Hidoshi, you brought up Hidoshi.
Yeah.
He had warned Sinclair that he had made some enemies.
Yep. Breaking the Strike and Zento. And
Breaking the Strike.
Zento had lots of friends in high places. So
the flip side of it, though, sounds like Sinclair will be okay if he just rides out the storm. It's like, yeah, we can help you, but we can't do it yet. We can make this go away, but you're going to have to go through hell until the time is right.
And Sinclair can't do his job under those conditions.
No.
It's going to end up as Ivanova predicted. A Russian tragedy.
Yeah. Speaking of Ivanova, we switch back there.
Yep. And she started without Garibaldi.
She started without Garibaldi. She was on number 4.
Yeah.
Cute commander, huh?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
You know, that was a setup. I'll tell you what, there is no way that anybody is going to talk to Ivanova that way that lives on that station.
Operative word being lives.
Yeah. There's nobody going to talk to Ivanova that way.
You know, and then they cut from the part we want to see when her eyes go wide and then narrow ominously to giving us this totally irrelevant stuff about answers to why Benzane's on this witch hunt.
Right.
It's like no one cares why Benzane's on the witch hunt. We all want to see Susan kick some butt,
and we do.
But as far as the witch hunt, you were right. Bester's involved up to his ears.
Yes,
he's definitely one of the ones at least pulling the string. And it turns out Benzane was in the top 10 for the command of Bab 5.
Yeah.
So now we know why he's after. Now we know why he's after Sinclair.
Yeah. Well, it completes a circle. Everybody is out to get this guy.
But back to the important part.
Yes.
Susan has laid out, 5 or 6 people in the bar by the time Garibaldi's able to dash in and get her?
Yeah, she fights like a Klingon. You know what? The thought I had while I was watching this is, she should enter the Mutai.
Yeah, oh gosh. I think even the Mutai has limits to the level of violence allowed.
Okay. Shoot.
But now, after cleaning her up and stuffing some oxy pills in her to try and clear her head, Garibaldi brings her in for Benzane thinks it's the coup de grace.
Right.
He's right. It is, just not quite in the way he expects. Sinclair shows up.
Yeah, it doesn't go his way.
Yeah, Sinclair shows up early, and he plants some seeds for Mr. Gray.
Well, he plants the seeds for Mr. Gray. And
truth is a powerful weapon.
Yep. And Garibaldi has done his homework and has given Sinclair the weapon he needs to fight back.
The truth.
Yes.
And Sinclair springs his trap when the interview begins.
Yep.
Now remember, first of all, Sinclair's issue about is Benzane going to be scanned as well is a legitimate question.
Yeah.
But remember, Teep can't block really strong emotions.
Right.
We get that little. We've known that already from Talia. We were reminded of that when he was talking to Ivanova earlier in this episode.
Yeah.
And the look on his face, it looks like, can't block strong emotion.
Yeah.
I'd say he had a migraine from being near benzene.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the guy launches into a rage and he threatens to have Sinclair executed.
He pulls his bloody gun. He thinks he can get away with killing everyone in the room.
Yeah, this is...
With the security recordings going on even?
Yes, this is a personal thing going on here. This is definitely not a routine investigation.
Yeah. Well, he lost his pension the moment he pulled his sidearm. Sheesh.
Yeah, that was it. And thanks to Gray...
Pushing the pain button.
Yeah, he got him to have some pain and gave Sinclair just enough time to knock him down. I loved Ivanova's reaction. The investigation's over.
Yep. Yeah. Like I said, though, Mr. Gray, Herman Gray was, hello, Obi Wan.
Yeah.
Oh.
I wonder what kind of reception.
Hello, fans. We now have we now have a new podcaster joining us. No, stay away from the microphone, Obi. This is our dog. Fortunately, you can't hear him. He's too busy licking. But like I said, Mr. Gray's not such a bad guy. Susan's antipathy was a little bit out of line.
Yeah.
I understand her position, yes, but he was a little harsher than need be.
She may have been. I agree somewhat, but Susan's got her agenda too. And,
yeah.
The way that Susan has lived her life, it's almost impossible to imagine her opening up to anyone, let alone a telepath.
Indeed.
She's going to be guarded all the time. No matter what. So.
Yeah, you're completely right.
Yeah.
You're completely right there.
And then the very closing scene, one of my favorite scenes.
The bike is done.
Yeah, the bike's finished, and we're going to take it out for a spin. There's no gasoline, but Lanier has put in a Minbari power source. Which looks like blue Jello.
That's what Anthea said, actually. And it looks like it's in a cooler. It's like, well, the storage compartment under the seat of a motorcycle does look like a cooler, but yeah, it looks like blue Jello. Oh gosh, yeah, the closing scene is totally great. Now, just trivia point. Jerry Doyle will not ride a motorcycle, period.
Really?
He apparently had a bad experience.
Oh.
So they CGI'd all the bike riding.
Oh, wow. I just love that closing scene, and then before the lift tube closes with Ivanova and Sinclair, she says, everything's back to normal. Now, this is normal?
Oh, yeah. For this place, yeah. But that's Eyes.
Yep, that's Eyes.
Great episode. This is one of the ones where I had really started getting back into this show. Remember I had been a little bit in and out in some of the first episodes of the season. Right. And this was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's a very strong, powerful episode with a lot of background, a lot of reveals, and a lot of questions. Some questions are answered here.
Now, we don't really know necessarily where Straczynski's going. We don't really know necessarily where the show is going with this. But it is so clear they are going somewhere.
Well, we do know that there are problems in EarthGov. We know that the Psi Corps is gaining power.
Up to their ears in something.
And we know that there is apparently an independence movement on Mars.
And how does all of this connect with what's going on as far as this incredibly powerful unknown presence in the galaxy that seems to be causing some discord?
Well, the answer to that is, please stay tuned.
Stay tuned. This is where it so much was, like I said, we really are onto something big.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could see the arcs here and there, but for me, this was one of the points, and it was Survivors that really got me hooked on the show.
Yeah. Well,
as far as just the quality, but it was this show that really, it's like, okay, where is this going?
Yeah, we've watched over and over and over again all the episodes, and hindsight is 20/20, and we know what's coming up. So,
oh yeah,
it's kind of neat to go back and look and see how those things actually fit in, and it's oh wow, I missed that before, and this is going to happen later on, and so forth.
And it's fun in the rewatch here because I am making an effort to suspend my. To suspend knowing where it's going.
Right.
On the one hand. But on the other hand, then I go back and I reflect on it with that knowledge. And just doing that double contrast is
well, see, in my case, I never really thought about it. I mean, I've always been a Babylon 5 fan, but it was just a really good show, and I never really thought about the ins and outs and the relationships and so forth and so on. And so now, while we're doing this, I'm getting a different look at things and a more in-depth look. And I'm learning a great deal and really enjoying it. I think we need to start thinking about wrapping this one up.
Yeah, we are having some of the most horrible internet connections. It's going to provide some interesting edits for me tonight.
Yeah. And before we go, though, I would like to send a shout-out to a Mr. Wayne Henderson.
Yeah, and Wayne is a gentleman. Well, does this happen to have something to do with that big Green Bay Packer jug that you're drinking out of?
Yeah. Actually, Wayne Henderson is a podcaster without equal. And he has a lot of shows, and you can subscribe to his feed. It's all inclusive, so everything he does comes down on one feed. Just put Wayne Henderson into iTunes and you'll get everything.
Wayne is a scholar and a gentleman.
Yes.
He is one of the kindest people that I have ever. I haven't met him in physical person, but
Right.
He's been an inspiration.
Yep.
For me, where getting into podcasting is concerned.
Yeah.
I started listening to him way back with the Lost podcast.
See, I caught up with him. Oh gosh, he would call into the Sci-Fi Diner every now and then, and that's kind of how I got to know him. And then we wound up on the diner doing Blade Runner Rewind,
right?
And that's kind of how I got hooked up with him. But him and Troy Heinrichs team up for several podcasts about television shows they watch. Under the Dome is one of them. And then, of course, Wayne and Dallin Christensen get together and do one of my favorites, the Packer Fan Podcast. So, tell you what, give it a look.
You have no idea. Wayne lives in Southern California, but this guy is the ultimate cheesehead.
He is. Absolutely. Well, he's a stockholder.
He bought stock in the Packers.
He is one of the owners of the Green Bay Packers. So, at any rate, Wayne, here's to you, and
here's to you.
And thanks for promoting us too. He's passing the word along about us.
And podcasting is only one of the things he does. He is an incredibly talented voiceover artist.
Right.
So if there's any voiceover work that you folks need, this man has one of the best sets of pipes you will ever hear.
Yep, the man with the golden pipes. Well, Raul, it is about that time.
It is about that time. For no boom today?
Nope, no boom today.
But a boom tomorrow.
There's always a boom tomorrow.
A boom tomorrow. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Podcast terminated. Thank you for listening to the Babylon Project podcast. You can email Raul and Jim at the Babylon Project podcast at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at the Babylon Project Podcast. On the internet, we are at babylonprojectpodcast.wordpress.com. To subscribe to the podcast, you can find us on iTunes, or you can subscribe to the RSS feed on the webpage.